Absolutely fabulous result for Manchester City at the home of Real Madrid. But Andy, where did that victory come from? Was that a masterclass in tactics? Because let's be honest, at the start of the evening, Sterling left on the bench, Aguero left out. There was a lot of talk. Hang on, once again, Pep has overthought this.
Yes.
So is he due a huge amount of credit?
It was a blend to me. There was a 1-0 down. Real Madrid were calling the shots. There was a couple of blocks from Fernandinho who had to come on for the injured Laporte. Those couple of blocks, if that hadn't happened, Real Madrid take a 2-goal lead, very different story. But then the substitution bringing on Raheem Sterling. So maybe Guardiola appreciated that's why Sterling was on the bench. He didn't want to start him, wanted the game to go a certain way, and then stick Sterling on. And look what happened. He gets fouled for the penalty, City go on and win the game. So you'd have to say tactically he got it right, but there was a couple of elements there. Those 2 blocks from Fernandinho were just as important as Sterling coming on.
For me, they did the job, first and foremost. But everyone's talking about how City set out and how Real Madrid set out. And for me, like I said, I thought Real Madrid controlled it in the first half. City grew into the game. I mean, they got a lot more confidence. And I think Madrid, you can't really go forward at Man City because if you actually push your numbers forward, City are fantastic on the breakaway and and the one thing you don't want to do is concede at home, especially in the Champions League, because then you've got to go to the Etihad and score double goal. And I think Madrid had the perfect plan to kind of sit, control the game and maybe take the 0-0 and go back to the Etihad. And obviously they got that 1-0 up and they were thinking they're home at home.
The goal came against the run of play, didn't it? At
100%,
that point in the game.
100%. And, you know, that's where most goals come from, mistakes. And it was a mistake.
But you can't keep making mistakes in the Champions League and getting away with it.
It just goes to show, you know, you make one mistake against a great team and they'll punish you. And that's what they did. But fair play to Man City, they were coming back into the game. And like you said, with the substitution of Raheem Sterling coming on, just livened the game up. And again, Man City just got stronger and stronger.
You think Guardiola's looking at that and thinking, Real Madrid 1-0 up, they're probably happy, very experienced Champions League side. We're 1-0 up, we don't have to go crazy for a second goal. Is that the point he thinks, I'll stick Sterling on to shake this up? Is that why he had him on the bench, for the impact that he can make against a team that are controlling the game at 1-0? Is that why he sticks him on?
He's just back from a hamstring.
So
that may have been a factor when he introduced him. But at the start of the game, you're looking at Jesus virtually playing left back, De Bruyne playing as a false 9 and going out on the right-hand side as well. It was bold. I think he's due huge credit. It was bold, wasn't it? I mean, he knows what he's doing, but in the Champions League, since he left Barcelona, for whatever reason, it hasn't gone for him.
What you'd have to do when you go to the Bernabeu is you have to contain. No matter how strong you think Real Madrid are, firstly, you've got to contain them because they're going to cause you problems. So maybe, yes, you get players playing out of position, but when the game settles down, or maybe you have to force the issue a little bit more, make substitutions, then the game changes. And it's just those moments when Sterling takes on the fullback, Carvajal dives in, he doesn't need to do, gives a penalty away. That's what surprised me, Ramos as well, making these basic elemental mistakes for an experienced Champions League team, experienced Champions League player. These were real glaring mistakes that they didn't need to make tonight.
Was that because they were rattled?
Well, again, City, the change they made, sending Sterling on, it's going to cause you a problem. Whether he's fully fit or not, he is going to commit you. And that's all he did with Carvajal. He just ran at him and said, I'm going to commit you, you're going to have to make a challenge. That's why he was sent on. That's what he brings. And it's not necessarily rattled. It just gives defenders a real problem because he's pacey and he's direct. So sending him on at that time was absolute perfection.
I mean, the old expression, if you make a mistake once, that's one thing, twice is careless. That's 26 red cards for Ramos.
Look, we all know what Ramos can bring to the football world. He's a fantastic player, fantastic centre-half, but he does see red mist quite a lot. I mean, look, even the send-off, even running through them positions, do I blame Jesus for maybe falling over? He feels a little tap on the shoulder. Okay, is it enough to fall down? We're never going to know. You know, and
well, it wasn't. He didn't push him to the ground. He felt a touch on his shoulder and he threw himself. But that's what you do at this level of the game.
I mean, look, for me, when I used to run at players and you'd get that slight little touch, that kind of does put you off on that angle, and then people may think, oh, well, that's not enough to push you over. But again, enough little touch can push you over into them little things. And again, it just
given that you were that type of player then, running at that speed, do you think there's enough contact there for him to go over?
Again, we still haven't seen it clearly enough that, I mean, the shoulder there, like, but he could have clipped his little legs. But again, that enough, maybe, I don't know.
If you see the way that it is exaggerated, he clearly knows on goal side of the centre-half, if he makes any contact at all, no matter how slight, I'm going to go to ground. And he does exaggerate it. It's the way he exaggerates. He falls in a way as if he'd been shoved in the lower back. He wasn't. There was a touch on his shoulder, and he really does arch his back and go to ground to make the referee absolutely sure I've been touched here. I don't think he was fouled. But again, Ramos shouldn't be in that position in the first place. Defensively, an experienced defender, that's a terrible position he gets himself into.
So, would you be critical of him for going over in that fashion?
Well, contact doesn't mean foul. I always like to think that a striker would want to score rather than be fouled and get a free kick or a penalty or get a centre-half sent off. But these days, I think strikers do feel differently, and maybe coaches encourage them at this stage of a Champions League game. If you feel a bit of contact and you know he's going to get sent off, don't be afraid to go to ground. But you'd hope if that's Alan Shearer, he'd want to score. Jesus, is he thinking about the bigger picture here? Ramos is going to be out the second leg. Is he taking that all into consideration, and that's why he maybe does what he does?
I don't think he has that time to think about all that. I just think naturally he feels the touch. He knows he's in a position where if he does feel that touch, he's going to go down. And obviously Ramos is going to be that last man. He's definitely going to get sent off.
But contact to me isn't foul. Foul is a foul.
But if you were back in that Manchester City dressing room...
Yep.
And he's won that free kick and he's off, you'd have gone, well done.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. But whether that's, of course you would, but whether the neutral looking on would say, is that really in this? But this is the Champions League. This is Man City against Real Madrid. You can understand why they do it, but I'm not condoning it.
I don't like using the word cheat, but simulation, whatever you call it.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is that not good play?
No, because you're manufacturing the situation. You're not actually fouled. Contact, as I say, contact does not mean foul. You haven't got the right to go to ground if you feel contact. Defenders put hands on strikers all the time. If you decide to throw yourself to the ground, you haven't been pushed to the ground. You've manufactured it to make it look like you've been fouled worse than you have. But again, that's the way the game is now. That's how strikers behave. Young strikers do it as well. So whether it's something they learn, that you feel contact, go to ground because you might get a penalty.
I just don't think you can categorise strikers in doing it. I think centre-halves are probably one of the best at doing it now. As soon as you touch a centre-half, they seem to go down quite as well because usually they're big, stronger, and you touch them nowadays, they go down even easier than a striker. You even look at Jesus' first goal with the header. Okay, he puts two hands on Ramos. There's a little bit, could you say, that's enough little touch?
That's probably worse than the one that he gets caught with. So why is one a penalty or a foul and one, a free kick?
Red card and
one isn't.
And one's
What's the difference? Because actually what Jesus does, I still don't think that is a foul.
No, it's not.
But it's more contact than Ramos made on him. So, yeah.
What sort of result is 2-1?
It seems a strange thing to say, but I wonder how City will approach the second leg because they only have one way of playing. And they don't need to win that second leg. They need to manage their way through that second leg. And it'll be really interesting because Real Madrid have to go for it. They've got everything to gain now. But City don't have to play their natural game. By playing their natural game, are they going to play into Real Madrid's hands? By committing so many bodies forward.
Can they play with the handbrake on?
But that's what is Guardiola's way. This is plan A is what we do. But do they need plan A to get past Real Madrid in that second leg? In the past, they've gone gung-ho and really gone at teams and it's cost them dearly.
I think he'll just play his natural way. I haven't seen Guardiola shy down from any fight, and I think he will go there and he will try to dominate.
Is that what he should do, you think? Or
I think that's in his nature, and I think he drives that into his teams to want to win and to dominate possession, to dominate the ball, and then create chances.
Will he not also say to his team, listen, we've gone to their backyard, we've shown we've got enough to beat them there. So you can certainly play your natural game here because we've got enough to roll them over.
But again, it is going to be the way City approach the away game is going to be very different because they were forced to play a certain way. As we said about players playing defensive positions when they're attacking players, in essence. But in the second game, Real Madrid will say, right, we want you to come onto us because we want to play on the counter-attack. So they could use what City are normally really good at against them. Lots of teams have done that over the years in the Champions League. And City have, at home, problems against Spurs. They've had real problems doing that against Liverpool. They just get blown away. So it is about management, and you'd think if anyone can adapt to the way a team plays, it's going to be Guardiola. But is he so set in his ways that this is how City played at home? We go for the jugular, but is that the right thing to do?
Well, I think the big thing is if Laporte can be back. Hopefully the injury is not too big. I mean,
he's so unlucky, isn't he?
It is, I know. But even though Fernandinho was excellent tonight, Laporte's obviously a big part of the back line for Man City. And if he can be back for that, it should be no problem for Man City.
I just, as you talk about the way they've adapted tonight in a certain fashion. I think what you said there is really interesting is what will the mindset be? Because that dictates everything about the game.
You know what City's mindset is? You know what Guardiola's mindset is? You see City play, they are relentless. That's how they play. They commit bodies forward. But defensively, you're always good for a goal against Man City, because that, even looking at that with Laporte in the team, it's different. But that back four with Fernandinho, that is the goal they gave away. Typical, a poor really goal to give away. There was a chance at the end as well when Kyle Walker lost his bearings. They give you chances, and if you commit a lot of bodies up the pitch, yes, you might score. And I think City will need to get a couple of goals, because defensively, we've seen it in the Premier League. Teams are now working them out and actually being very effective against City, because defensively they're not as strong as they were.
We can't tell. A lot of it is theoretical. But do you think there was any... The fact that they have been charged by UEFA, do you think there was any element of siege mentality that added to City's desire tonight? I mean, these are all international players. They're world-class players. But is it possible, even at that level, you can raise that game, your game, that little bit more because you got the hump?
The pressure was on City more than ever, because every game they play, they're under pressure because people expect so much of them. Every game, they're in so many cup finals, they're challenging for all the honours. So every game that they play, their players are used to playing under real pressure. But because of what might happen in the seasons to come, this season becomes even more important. The Champions League, with what's happening in the Premier League, is so important. So actually, I really admire what City did, because I do feel they were under more pressure than they normally face tonight.
I don't think so. I think... no. And I say that because I just believe they're professional players and they go out there and do their job. And whatever situation they're in, they want to win every single game that they're involved in. And they want to dominate, and that's what Pep has driven into them. So even this whole thing about them not being in the next 2 years and all that, for me, it's still focus in. Well, hopefully they're going to look to win it, but they don't need no more motivation just because they're not going to be in it.
I understand what you're saying, but is it not possible, even if you're a top player, is it still not possible to add more motivation? If you're already pumped, you're focused, you're a top-class player, but then the manager says to you, by the way...
You're not going to play in the next
possibly not.
2 years.
We might not see this competition for 2 years.
Please give me some more. I don't think a top player would need that motivation. I think a top player knows he's got to go out there and do his job, no matter what. I don't get when people need to have that extra motivation. I don't understand it. You should already have.
Though. Everyone's different.
Yeah, okay, I get it, but I don't think Pep would need to motivate them in that way to say, oh, hey, guys, this is your only chance for the next 2 years, by the way, so please give it everything.
I don't think you'd have to say it, but I think the players, it's such an unusual situation. Normally, if you fall short in a competition, you've got next year. They might not have next year or the year after. So if they don't do well this year, where's Guardiola going to be in 2 years' time? Is he still going to be at the club? Everything could hinge on whether they're in that competition. So that's why...
OK, granted, but then let's face it, they could end up going to a team that's not even in the Champions League. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, I think personally, they'll just go out there and focus on their job.
I never like to take the credit away from the winning team, but were Madrid poor tonight by their standards?
They don't compare well to previous Real Madrid. They're not the Real Madrid of old. So I think, again, it's not an easy game for City, but it's an easier game.
I think it's the front three.
Yes.
Looking at that game there, they controlled the game. Like we sat and watched it, and we were questioning, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Madrid are just sticking by. They've got a lot of possession in their own half," and I'm sitting there going, well, they're probably happy, because if you're actually going at Man City, they're dangerous breaking forward. So again, he's got to have a game plan. And maybe he was just thinking, maybe we can nick it by getting...
You haven't got Ronaldo either, so you take him out of that team and suddenly the team looks very different as well.
So again, Madrid haven't got that power. I know they've got some great quality strikers, like in Benzema, but just going there, I think Madrid had a plan to just keep it 0-0, and kind of maybe get a half a chance and get that goal. Like I said, everything was perfect up until Raheem Sterling came on.
Yeah.
Are you both reasonably confident that it's not City through without thinking about it?
Not at all.
No?
No, from past experience and how City approached the game. That's why everyone, if you're thinking 2-1, that's them through. I don't think Guardiola will be thinking like that at all. Very interesting to see what team he picks and how they approach that second leg.
I agree. As much as I would like to say City are through, you know that they're going to concede.
OK, well, that's Manchester City. What about Chelsea, Tottenham and Liverpool? As we said, all failed to register on the score sheet in the first leg. So,
well, for me...
Can Atletico do what they did at their stadium at Anfield?
If they had the same referee. And like I said, I watched that game, and like Liverpool for me dominated. And don't get me wrong, Atletico play a certain way, very defensively, and catch teams on the counter-attack, look for set pieces, and they got their goal and they did play well. But with the way that certain things happen in the game, like fouls and all that, and Klopp coming out saying he had to bring players off because he didn't want them to be sent off, that does play a little bit in there. And I know the referees are different in certain leagues, and I personally think it's going to be a very tough game for Liverpool. I really do. But I think it will depend on the referee, how the referee controls the situation
also,
of the game.
The atmosphere at Anfield is, I know we're saying the game at Atletico was extraordinary atmosphere. It will be the same, but it'll be Liverpool, but in reverse. And I think Liverpool will do that, turn that around.
Well, Atletico do go there, and you know the exact way they're going to play. You're going to have to break them down.
Yeah.
They have all the tricks in the book. And again, I think if the referee sets the rule out straight away of no one time wasting, no silly fouls or anything, I think Liverpool will get the result. But if you get a referee that's playing the game, it could be difficult.
Okay, are you less confident about, well, Chelsea obviously after they came up against an excellent Bayern side,
yes.
and Frank Lampard said, you know, they were outclassed. It was sobering. I thought it was quite revealing as well when he said, we've all got to look at ourselves individually, and I very much include myself in that. He said, you have to look at your opponent. Did I do my job? Did, you know, I get my part right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of reflection after. Bayern Munich were excellent, weren't they?
Yeah. And they're experienced in Europe as well. But Harry and I were talking about this, about maybe, again, Frank Lampard tactically, okay, youngish team, but there's still elements of that very experienced, very good senior players in that team as well. And it's good that Frank has not said it's just because I've got a young team that the game went the way that it did. He's saying maybe I got some of this tactically wrong as well. We talked about kind of the youth in the team, the energy in the team. Do you maybe have to, again, I know you're at home, so do you feel obliged to be on the front foot playing against Bayern? Is that the sensible thing to do? Maybe sit back and play a little bit on the care. But that comes, again, Frank's an inexperienced coach. He's played a lot, of course, in the Champions League, but he's managed in the Championship and then taking on the Chelsea. Again, the expectations are huge. We're learning more about him as much as we're learning about the players, and he's willing to accept maybe he got it tactically wrong as well. Yeah,
well, I think so, and I think he's got to look at his opponents. Like, Bayern Munich are a fantastic team. I mean, their movement, their passing, it was sensational. Thiago just running the show. I mean, the power in the wingers that they've got was fantastic. And I just feel Chelsea should have just changed their way. And you talk about just because they're at home, you know, they feel that they've got to go on the front foot. I watched also Napoli versus Barcelona. Napoli defended right on the 18-yard box because they know if they go against Barcelona, they're going to get destroyed. So you have to change your tactics.
Appreciate what you're up against.
You have to.
Just something you said to me, you're not having this home and away thing, are you?
No.
You don't think there's any difference between playing away from home or at home?
No, I don't. No, and I don't understand it when players will say, "Oh, we're away from home," you know, and you're still playing on a grass pitch. The only difference is the fans are probably in a different colour shirt. That's the only thing.
You genuinely didn't find it different?
It infuriated me that I've come across players that were scared to play away from home to at home. I don't see the difference.
Not so scared to play, but the atmosphere and how you feel as an away player.
I've always come across that you should be able to perform, even if there was only one man watching you, right, to 100,000 people watching. You should be able to do your job the right way. There's no way.
Did it not affect your performance ever, whether you were home or away?
No, not one bit. Not one bit.
Do you accept that you're very much in the minority in football, in that way of thinking? Bear in mind, you said it used to infuriate you the way your colleagues spoke. You hear managers talk about it now. And, you know, obviously there's the goals scored away from home, etc. element in the Champions League. But it's always been very much accepted. The result away from home is tougher than at home.
Yeah, I think teams like Barcelona who do, at their peak, it didn't matter whether they played home or away because their game dominated the opposition, so home and away was taken out of the equation.
Are we just talking about great teams then?
I always felt, I just felt different stepping out. I wasn't scared to play, but you did feel that the onus isn't on me or an away team.
Exactly, don't get me wrong, the onus is on them to come forward to you. It's you just asked me, are you scared to play home and away?
Scared,
not scared, but
you have always maintained whenever we've spoken that there should be no difference in any player's mind whether they're home or away.
No difference. And it's the Man City players going out there in the Bernabeu. Should they be scared because there's 81,000 people there? No chance. No chance.
I think scared's the wrong. I don't mean you're
what,
scared
intimidated?
to play.
Intimidated?
No, just actually you I just think
so
psychologically, I felt different playing. It's not just necessarily playing against Millwall or playing these really tough grounds to go. Anywhere, it did feel, home and away to me, did feel very different. But I wasn't scared to play. I actually enjoyed it a lot more probably away from home, because if you can frustrate a crowd 15, 20 minutes, you can feel a crowd turn, then suddenly an away game becomes like a home game. So I enjoyed actually winning away more than maybe winning at home, because you have to do things slightly differently to get the job done. So I psychologically felt different stepping out onto an away pitch.